From a voice in a writer's head to a Corvette with a retractable roof designed for massive hair, Cleopatra Jones hides some of Hollywood's strangest secrets. Discover the bizarre casting battles, production errors, and surprising celebrity cameos that made this 1973 blaxploitation classic unlike anything before or since. Fact 1. The script started as a voice in Max Julien's head. Max Julien, one of blaxploitation's biggest stars who appeared opposite Richard Pryor in 1973's The Mac, was laying low in Rome in the early 1970s when something unusual happened. He heard a voice in his head telling him to go home and write about something called Cleopatra Jones. The experience was strange enough that Julien took it seriously, and just 2 days later, he was back in Hollywood pitching the idea to producer Peter Guber. Everyone was looking for a black film at the time, Julien later recalled, which made his pitch particularly timely. The concept centered on a female James Bond-type character, a sophisticated action heroine who could fight, drive, and look fabulous while taking down drug dealers. Guber didn't stick with the project for long, but Warner Brothers quickly committed to making the film, bringing Julien on board as both co-writer and co-producer. The fact that Julien created one of the most iconic blaxploitation heroines based on what essentially amounted to a mysterious inner voice makes the origin story of Cleopatra Jones one of Hollywood's stranger creative moments. Whether it was inspiration, intuition, or something else entirely, that voice in Rome launched a franchise and helped establish Tamara Dobson as a groundbreaking action star who stood 6 feet 2 inches tall and became a cultural icon of 1970s cinema. Fact 2. 2,500 actresses auditioned for the lead role. When Warner Brothers decided to make Cleopatra Jones, they knew they needed someone extraordinary for the title role. So they launched an ambitious nationwide talent search that covered every conceivable source in the black community. According to the studio's press materials and the film's official press book, an astonishing 2,500 actresses auditioned for the chance to play the towering, fashionable special agent. The search eventually narrowed down to a final 10 contenders, and in a 1973 interview with the New York Times, Tamara Dobson revealed that this elite group included both Vonetta McGee, who was Max Julien's girlfriend and the woman he originally wrote the part for, and Naomi Sims, one of Dobson's modeling rivals. At the time of her audition, Dobson's resume was considerably shorter than many of her competitors, containing mostly modeling work for commercials and only 2 previous acting roles, one of which was actually as a stunt woman for comeback Charleston Blue in 1972. Despite her lack of extensive acting experience, Dobson had qualities that set her apart from the competition. Her towering height, physical strength, and genuine eagerness to take on the role ultimately won over the casting directors. What she lacked in name recognition, she more than made up for with her commanding physical presence and natural charisma, qualities that would become central to the film's marketing campaign and her legendary tagline, 6 feet 2 inches of dynamite. Fact 3. The role was originally written for the writer's girlfriend. Max. Julien didn't just create Cleopatra Jones as an abstract concept. He originally conceived the entire role specifically for his longtime girlfriend, Vonetta McGee, who had already established herself in blaxploitation cinema with appearances in films like Hammer and Melinda, both released in 1972. Julien had a clear vision of McGee as his sophisticated, James Bond-style heroine, and he wrote the character with her talents and personality in mind. However, when the project moved from one studio to another and Warner Brothers took over production, they opened up the casting to a much wider search, which led to the nationwide audition process that brought in 2,500 hopefuls. McGee remained in the running throughout the process and actually made it to the final 10 actresses being seriously considered for the role, but ultimately lost out to Tamara Dobson, a fashion model whose impressive height and commanding screen presence convinced the filmmakers she was the perfect choice. The decision must have created some tension, considering Julien remained attached to the project as both co-writer and co-producer, meaning he had to watch his original muse lose the role he'd crafted for her to another actress. Despite this personal disappointment, the film moved forward with Dobson in the lead, and she brought her own unique qualities to the character, transforming Cleopatra Jones into a cultural icon. McGee went on to have a successful career in other films, but she never got to play the role that was originally written with her in mind. Fact 4. 5 custom Corvettes were built. One went to the Rockford Files. Cleopatra Jones's signature ride was a sleek, customized black and silver 1973 Corvette Stingray that became almost as famous as the character herself, but what most viewers don't know is that the production didn't just build one of these iconic vehicles. They built 5 separate custom Corvettes specifically for filming. Each car was modified with special features to accommodate both the action sequences and the star's unique physical requirements, and the vehicles appeared throughout the film in various scenes requiring stunts, close-ups, and different camera angles. The investment in multiple identical vehicles was substantial, reflecting Warner Brothers' commitment to making this one of the most expensive blaxploitation films of its era. But the story doesn't end when filming wrapped. At least one of these custom-taught Corvettes found new life in television when it appeared in an episode of The Rockford Files, the popular detective series starring James Garner that ran from 1974 to 1980. The car's distinctive black and silver styling made it recognizable to sharp-eyed viewers who had seen Cleopatra Jones, creating an unexpected crossover between the blaxploitation film and mainstream television. The fact that Warner Brothers went to the expense of building 5 identical custom vehicles shows just how important they considered the visual style and action sequences to be. And the Corvette's appearance in another production demonstrates how these purpose-built movie cars sometimes got recycled across different projects once their original filming was complete. Fact 5. The Corvette had a special Afro-accommodating roof. One of the most ingenious and unusual modifications made to Cleopatra Jones's custom Corvette Stingray had nothing to do with weapons, speed, or spy gadgets. It was specifically designed to protect Tamara Dobson's spectacular Afro hairstyle. The car featured an automatically opening T-bar panel in the roof directly above the driver's seat. And this panel was engineered to open simultaneously whenever Dobson opened the car door. The entire system was created for one specific purpose: to allow the 6'2" actress to get in and out of the low-slung sports car without squashing, crushing, or damaging her massive afro, which added several inches to her already impressive height. In the 1970s, natural black hairstyles like afros were powerful symbols of black pride and identity, and Dobson's perfectly styled afro was a crucial part of Cleopatra Jones's iconic look throughout the film. The production team understood that maintaining that hairstyle's perfect shape was essential to the character's visual impact, so they invested in automotive engineering to solve what might have seemed like a minor problem, but was actually critical to preserving the film's aesthetic. Every time viewers see Cleo smoothly exit her Corvette with her afro intact and perfectly shaped, they're witnessing this clever piece of custom engineering in action. The modification represents the level of attention to detail the filmmakers brought to every aspect of Cleopatra Jones's appearance, ensuring that even practical considerations like getting out of a car wouldn't compromise the character's larger-than-life presence. Fact 6. Guinness recognized Dobson as film's tallest leading lady. Tamara Dobson stood an impressive 6 feet 2 inches tall, and this extraordinary height wasn't just a notable physical characteristic. It earned her official recognition in the Guinness Book of World Records as the tallest leading lady in film history. The record acknowledgement came during her career peak following the release of Cleopatra Jones and its sequel, cementing her place not just in blaxploitation cinema, but in the broader history of Hollywood. Her height became such a central part of her screen persona that it was prominently featured in all the film's marketing materials, most famously in the tagline, 6 feet 2 inches of dynamite, which appeared on posters, advertisements, and promotional materials. Director Jack Starrett made deliberate use of Dobson's physical stature throughout the film, using camera angles and staging that emphasized how she literally towered over most of the other actors, both male and female. This visual dominance reinforced Cleopatra Jones's character as powerful, commanding, and impossible to ignore. In an era when female action heroes were still relatively rare and black female action heroes were practically non-existent in mainstream cinema, Dobson's height added another layer to her groundbreaking presence on screen. She wasn't just tall for a woman or tall for an actress. She was officially the tallest woman to ever carry a film as the leading character. That Guinness World Record recognition validated what audiences could clearly see. Tamara Dobson was a unique physical presence in cinema history, and her height was an integral part of what made Cleopatra Jones such an unforgettable character. Fact 7. Her ID card shows the wrong height. Despite all the marketing materials proudly proclaiming that Tamara Dobson stood 6 feet 2 inches tall, and despite her Guinness World Record recognition for being the tallest leading lady in film, the movie itself contains a glaring contradiction. Approximately 15 minutes into Cleopatra Jones, when the title character arrives at the airport and flashes her special agent identification card to the local police officers, viewers who look carefully at the close-up shot of her ID can clearly see that it lists her height as only 5 feet 10 inches. This 4-inch discrepancy is particularly noticeable because the film makes such a big deal about Cleo's impressive stature throughout its runtime, and the marketing campaign used her height as a central selling point. The error raises questions about whether the props department simply made a mistake when creating the ID card, whether they initially planned to cast someone shorter and never updated the prop, or whether there was some other reason for the incorrect information. What makes the mistake even more puzzling is that the ID card appears in a clear close-up shot where viewers can read all the details, meaning the filmmakers had the opportunity to catch and correct the error during editing, but apparently never did. The card also lists Cleo's age as 24 rather than including a date of birth, which is another unusual choice for an official identification document. This continuity error has become one of those movie mistakes that dedicated fans notice and discuss, representing the kind of small but memorable production detail that slipped through despite the film's relatively large budget. Fact 8. The film beat Pam Grier's Coffee to theaters by 2 months. The story behind the release of Coffee and Cleopatra Jones reveals one of Hollywood's most interesting competitive moments in blaxploitation cinema. When American International Pictures made a handshake deal with Max Julien for the rights to Cleopatra Jones, they thought they had secured their next big hit. But Warner Brothers swooped in and offered Julien significantly more money, causing AIP to lose the project entirely. Furious about being outbid and losing what they considered a promising concept, AIP's head of production, Larry Gordon, approached director Jack Hill with urgent instructions to quickly create their own black woman revenge picture that could beat Cleopatra Jones to market. Hill rapidly developed Coffee, writing the screenplay specifically for Pam Grier, whom he had worked with previously on The Big Doll House. AIP rushed Coffee through production with the explicit goal of getting it into theaters before Warner Brothers could release their more expensive, studio-backed production. In this race to the box office, AIP won. Coffee premiered in May of 1973, while Cleopatra Jones didn't reach theaters until July of that same year, giving Pam Grier's film a 2-month head start. However, saying Coffee beat Cleopatra Jones to theaters is somewhat misleading about which film was developed first, since the Cleopatra Jones script existed before AIP lost the rights and created Coffee as a competitive response. The rivalry between these two films gave audiences two different takes on the black female action hero within months of each other, and both became significant entries in blaxploitation history. Fact 9. Dobson personally requested her Italian designer. Fashion was absolutely central to Cleopatra Jones's character and visual impact, and Tamara Dobson understood this better than anyone, which is why she specifically asked the producers to hire Italian fashion designer Giorgio di Sant'Angelo to create all of her costumes for the film. Di Sant'Angelo was an avant-garde designer based in New York who had built his reputation by incorporating ethnic costume components into his work and using flexible fabrics that allowed for movement, making him perfect for an action heroine who needed to look stunning while performing martial arts and driving at high speeds. Dobson, who held a degree in fashion illustration from the Baltimore Institute of Art and had worked extensively as a high fashion model before becoming an actress, knew exactly what kind of designer she needed to bring her vision of Cleopatra Jones to life. The producers agreed to her request, and D.I. Santangelo created 10 completely different outfits for Dobson to wear throughout the film, each one more eye-catching than the last. The costumes included fur-lined capes, colorful turbans, sheer shirts, silver jackets, elaborate pantsuits, and flowing robes, all designed to make Cleo look simultaneously powerful, elegant, and unforgettably stylish. The collaboration was so successful that when Warner Brothers produced the sequel Cleopatra Jones and the Casino of Gold in 1975, Dobson insisted on working with D.I. Santangelo again, and he returned to design another spectacular wardrobe for her character. This creative partnership between actress and designer helped establish Cleopatra Jones as a true fashion icon of 1970s cinema. Fact 10. Shelley Winters' name mysteriously vanishes from end credits. Shelley Winters, a two-time Academy Award winner who was one of the biggest names in the cast, receives prominently featured special billing in the opening credits of Cleopatra Jones. Her credit appears in a separate card that reads, "And Shelley Winters as Mommy," giving her the coveted special guest star treatment that recognizes her status as a major Hollywood actress appearing in a blaxploitation film. This type of special billing is typically used for established stars who want their name to stand out from the rest of the cast, and it usually appears in both the opening and closing credits. However, in a bizarre and unexplained production decision, when the end credits roll at the conclusion of Cleopatra Jones, Shelley Winters' name completely and mysteriously disappears. While all the other cast members are listed in the closing credits in order of importance, Winters is entirely absent, despite playing one of the film's central characters and chewing scenery throughout the movie as the outrageous villain Mommy. The omission is particularly strange because her character is so memorable and prominent in the film, appearing in numerous scenes and serving as Cleopatra's main antagonist. It's unclear whether this was an intentional choice by Winters or her representatives, a contractual quirk that only required her name in the opening credits, or simply an oversight by the production team. Some actors have specific contractual agreements about how and where their names appear in credits, but the complete absence from the end credits while maintaining prominent opening billing remains an unusual and puzzling aspect of the film's production. Fact 11. Soul Train host Don Cornelius made a cameo as himself. Don Cornelius, the legendary creator and host of Soul Train, appears in Cleopatra Jones playing himself, bringing his authentic presence from one of the most influential shows in black entertainment directly into the film. Alongside Cornelius, the movie also features radio DJ Frankie Crocker, another towering figure in black entertainment who was known as one of the most popular radio personalities of the era. Both men appear as themselves rather than playing fictional characters, lending real-world credibility and cultural authenticity to the film's depiction of the black community in Los Angeles. At the time Cleopatra Jones was released in July of 1973, Soul Train was already a cultural phenomenon that had launched in October of 1971 and was revolutionizing how black music and culture appeared on television. Cornelius had created the show as a black alternative to American Bandstand, and by 1973, he was one of the most recognizable faces in Black America. His appearance in the film wasn't just a celebrity cameo for novelty's sake. It represented a connection between the movie and the broader black cultural moment that was happening in music, fashion, and entertainment. Having Cornelius and Crocker appear as themselves, rather than actors playing versions of them, added a layer of authenticity to the film's setting, showing that Cleopatra Jones existed in the same world as real black cultural icons. These cameos helped ground the larger-than-life action story in a recognizable cultural context that audiences of the time would have immediately understood and appreciated. Fact 12. The director died younger than his star. Jack Starrett, the director of Cleopatra Jones, had a career that encompassed both acting and directing in action films, westerns, and blaxploitation cinema. But his life was cut tragically short due to problems with alcoholism. Starrett died from kidney failure on March 27, 1989, when he was only 52 years old. His death came before that of his leading lady, Tamara Dobson, who lived until October 2, 2006, when she passed away at age 59 from complications related to both pneumonia and multiple sclerosis. The fact that the director died 7 years younger than his star is made more poignant by the fact that both died relatively young, neither reaching their senior years. Starrett had been born on November 2, 1936, in Refugio, Texas, and beyond directing Cleopatra Jones, he was perhaps best known to audiences for his acting roles, particularly as the stuttering cowboy Gabby Johnson in Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles from 1974, and as the brutal deputy Art Galt who antagonizes Sylvester Stallone in First Blood from 1982. He also directed the cult horror film Race with the Devil in 1975. His struggles with alcoholism plagued him throughout the 1980s and ultimately led to the kidney failure that ended his life. Meanwhile, Dobson was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2000 and battled the progressive disease for 6 years before her death. Both careers were cut short by illness, robbing cinema of two talented individuals who had made significant contributions to 1970s exploitation and action films. Fact 13. The junkyard crane mysteriously changes attachments. During the climactic finale of Cleopatra Jones, which takes place in an automotive junkyard where Cleo confronts the villainous mommy, the production team made a continuity error so obvious that viewers who pay attention can't help but notice it. The scene features a large industrial crane that plays a significant role in the action, and throughout these sequences, the crane's attachment bizarrely and inexplicably switches back and forth between completely different pieces of equipment. At some points, the crane has a mechanical claw attached to it, the kind typically used for grabbing and moving large pieces of metal or crushed cars. Then, without any logical explanation, the crane suddenly has a large magnet attachment instead, which would be used for picking up ferrous metal objects. Even stranger, after appearing with the magnet, the crane switches back to having the claw attachment again. These changes happen multiple times during the junkyard confrontation, and there's no reason within the story for the crane to be switching between different attachments. The error likely resulted from filming the sequence over multiple days or using different cranes for different shots, with the continuity person either not noticing the changes or the production team deciding it wasn't worth the expense to reshoot scenes to maintain consistency. For a film that had one of the bigger budgets in blaxploitation cinema and was backed by a major studio like Warner Brothers, this kind of obvious continuity mistake stands out as an unusual oversight that made it into the final cut. Fact 14. It was one of the most expensive blaxploitation films ever made. When Warner Brothers decided to produce Cleopatra Jones, they approached it differently than most blaxploitation films of the era, committing to a level of financial investment that was unusual for the genre, with backing from a major Hollywood studio rather than an independent production company, and with the involvement of Shelley Winters, a two-time Academy Award-winning actress who commanded significant salary and had major star power. Cleopatra Jones became one of the most expensive blaxploitation films produced during that period of cinema. While most blaxploitation movies were made on shoestring budgets and filmed quickly to maximize profits, Warner Brothers gave this production significantly more resources, as evidenced by the 5 custom Corvettes built specifically for filming, the elaborate costumes created by high-fashion designer Giorgio di Sant'Angelo, the extensive location shooting across Los Angeles, including neighborhoods like Watts and Long Beach, and the involvement of established Hollywood talent both in front of and behind the camera. The studio was clearly attempting to elevate the blaxploitation formula with better production values, hoping that a bigger budget would attract both black audiences who had made films like Shaft and Superfly into hits, and white audiences who might be drawn by the presence of a major star like Winters and the James Bond-style action sequences. The investment paid off when the film became a box office success, grossing more than $100,000 in its first week of release and climbing to $400,000 by the 5th week, numbers that justified the higher budget and led Warner Brothers to greenlight an even more expensive sequel 2 years later. Fact 15. The film's theme song sold over 500,000 copies. While Cleopatra Jones was a success at the box office, the film's soundtrack became an even bigger hit, demonstrating the power of blaxploitation film music to transcend the movies themselves and become standalone cultural phenomena. The soundtrack featured soul singer Joe Simon performing the main theme song, appropriately titled Theme from Cleopatra Jones, and Millie Jackson singing 2 additional tracks, Love Doctor and It Hurts So Good. The album sold well over 500,000 copies, which was an impressive commercial achievement that showed how the music could reach audiences beyond those who had seen the film in theaters. Joe Simon's theme song proved particularly successful, climbing to number 3 on the soul charts for 2 weeks in August of 1973 and reaching number 18 on the pop charts, giving it genuine crossover appeal. Millie Jackson's It Hurts So Good, which played during the love scene between Cleo and Ruben in the film, also performed well on the charts, hitting number 3 on the soul charts in October of 1973 and number 24 on the pop charts. The film's instrumental score was composed and arranged by acclaimed jazz musician James Louis J.J. Johnson, adding another layer of musical credibility to the production. The soundtrack's success demonstrated how blaxploitation films were creating opportunities not just for black actors, but for black musicians, and how the music from these films was becoming an important part of 1970s popular culture that extended well beyond the movie theaters where the films played.